Welcome to Stories Be Johar, where we bring you thrilling and emotional stories that keep you hooked from start to finish. In today's video, we invite you to dive into a world full of mystery and suspense, where plot twists meet raw emotion, creating an unforgettable experience. Whether you're looking for epic drama or a touching human story, we aim to deliver content that sparks your curiosity and holds your attention. One day, there was a young man named Nasser, a student in his second year of high school. An announcement was made at his school about a football tournament to be held between classes, so Nasser decided to participate with his two close friends, Khalid and Yasser. When they went to the student counselor to register their team, they were told that they could add players from other classes if they agreed. Nasser and his friends started looking for more players, and each of them contacted students from different classes to join their team. After a short while, Yasser came back happily and said that several players had agreed to join on the condition that Nasser would be on the team because they knew he was a good player. At the same time, Khalid also returned and told them that he had found a new player who would join them. They registered all the players' names with the student counselor and chose a name for the team. The league was set to begin the next day. This was the beginning of a story combining friendship, sports, and the challenges this team might face during the school championship. One day, Nasser Power, a second-year high school student, decided to take part in a school football tournament with his two close friends, Khalid and Yasser. When registering the team, the student counselor suggested they choose a unique team name. Nasser proposed the name Justice Team, but after a brief discussion, he agreed to the name Star Team Awis, which the counselor had suggested. After registration, the league began with a format that included preliminary matches leading up to the final. Star Team won all of their matches and reached the final game, where they won 3-0. Following their success, their sports coach informed them that they would participate in a larger school league and added that he was also a coach at a local club, offering them the chance to join it. The team was very excited when the coach offered 500 rials per player if they signed with the club. The next day, the team went with the coach to an office nearby, signed the contracts, and received the agreed-upon amount. Although their team did not ultimately win the school league, this experience marked a new beginning for them as young players entering the world of organized football. After the school league ended, Nasser, along with his friends Khalid and Yasser, continued training with the coach who had offered them the chance to join the local club. They trained daily at 5 p.m. About a year and a half passed while they continued training, and at the same time, they completed high school. After graduation, they applied to universities and military institutions, having already decided that whoever got accepted somewhere would pursue that path. At one point, Khalid bought a new car and used to drive Nasser and Yasser to the club, for training. One day, while heading to practice, someone unfamiliar joined Khalid in the car, whom neither Nasser nor Yasser knew. Upon reaching the club, Khalid left the car with his brother and said he would come to pick them up after training. During the session, Nasser started feeling uneasy about the car, especially since it was new, but Khalid reassured him, saying he trusted his brother. About 2 hours after training ended, Khalid's brother came and replaced the car. Khalid got in with him and left without telling Nasser or Yasser anything. The next day, Khalid didn't show up as he usually did to drive them to practice, and worry began creeping into their minds. Nasser tried calling Yasser and found out that Yasser also had no idea where Khalid was. They decided to go to the club with Yasser's father, and during training, Nasser and Yasser kept waiting for Khalid, but in vain. After training, the two decided to visit Khalid's house to check on him. But what had happened to Khalid? And was there a problem because he had left the car with his brother when Khalid missed 2 consecutive training sessions. Nasser and Yasser grew increasingly worried. They decided to visit Khalid's house to make sure he was okay, but they didn't find the car there. When they knocked on the door, Khalid's sister answered and said he was just traveling and would return soon. The two returned home and continued training with the driver sent by Nasser's father, while Khalid remained absent for over a week without any word. After a week had passed, Yasser suggested they go to the rest stop where Khalid and Suleiman, his so-called cousin, had gone before Khalid disappeared. They headed to the rest area and met someone matching the description Yasser had given. When they asked the man if he knew Khalid, he confirmed that he did, but said, "I haven't heard from him in a week, and I don't know where he went." Nasser and Yasser left the rest area more anxious than ever, still unaware of the full truth about Khalid's disappearance. After Khalid had been missing for several days, absent from training, and not responding to calls, Nasser Surat and his friend Yasser Pas decided to visit Khalid's house again. His sister received them and said he was traveling and would return soon. But Nasser and Yasser sensed something strange. They contacted Suleiman, Khalid's cousin who had taken the car from him before his disappearance, but Suleiman denied knowing Khalid's whereabouts and claimed he hadn't heard from him since that day. Back home, Nasser told his father what was happening, and after some time, his father informed him that Khalid had been arrested on charges of drug trafficking. Nasser was shocked. He knew Khalid as a good person who didn't even smoke. Nasser told Yasser what his father had said, and Yasser was devastated too, refusing to believe that Khalid could be involved in such a case. They tried contacting Suleiman again, and this time he claimed that Khalid had gone to another city to stay with an uncle and would remain there for 2 months. However, Nasser and Yasser doubted his words and started believing that Khalid was actually detained and that Suleiman was lying. Eventually, Nasser's father learned that his son had told Yasser everything, and instead of scolding him, he tried to calm them down. He asked them not to spread the news to protect Khalid's reputation in case he was innocent, or to minimize the damage if he were guilty. Years later, after Nasser graduated from the military academy and became an officer, he moved to a distant area about 320 kilometers away from his hometown. He had been working there for nearly 2 months when one late night he received a strange phone call. When Nasser answered, he was shocked to hear it was Khalid, his long-lost friend. A wave of shock hit him as he remembered all the moments they shared together, especially the day Khalid disappeared. Nasser asked Khalid how he was, where he was, and why he had vanished for so many years, but Khalid started crying and said, "Yes, Nasser, I was in prison." Nasser didn't understand the details yet, but Khalid said he would tell him the full story from beginning to end if they could meet in person. However, Nasser explained that he had moved far away and couldn't come now. Still, Nasser tried to get more information, and Khalid began recounting what had happened. One day, Khalid had driven to the club with his brother Suleiman, whom Nasser thought was just a cousin. After training, Khalid let Suleiman take the car to drop off his family and promised to return after 2 hours. Later, Suleiman asked Khalid to pass by someone's place and have a short rest. Khalid agreed and drove with him to a location about 30-40 kilometers away, where Suleiman entered a house while Khalid waited in the car. But this wasn't an ordinary house. It was a place used for drug dealing. It turned out the police had been monitoring the site, and when the operation was raided, Khalid was arrested along with the others. Even though he had no involvement in the deal, just being at the wrong place at the wrong time. After finishing his studies at the Military Institute and graduating as an officer, Nasser moved to a remote area about 320 kilometers from his hometown. He had been working there for almost 2 months when he received a strange call from someone he never expected. Khalid, his long-lost friend. In the call, Khalid told Nasser that he had been imprisoned and that everything that happened to him was due to injustice. Then he began telling the whole story of his disappearance. One day, Khalid Kek went to the club in his car with his brother, Suleiman. After training, Suleiman asked him to stop by someone's place for a short break, and they drove about 40 kilometers away. There, Suleiman entered the house while Khalid stayed in the car, but the police had been monitoring the house. It was a drug distribution center. On their way back, as they passed a nearby military checkpoint, the car was stopped, and Khalid was arrested along with the person in the back seat, who turned out to be one of the biggest drug dealers in the area. Despite Khalid's denial of any involvement, he was detained because he was the owner of the car and accused of collaborating with the other man. Suleiman was also brought in, but he denied any connection to the incident and was later released. While Khalid remained in prison, Khalid stayed in jail for years despite being innocent. When he was finally released, he felt that his future was ruined and that people would always see him as a criminal. Nasser told him that he still had a chance to rebuild his life, that the world hadn't ended yet, and promised Khalid that he would visit him soon. After some time, Khalid's life began to stabilize. He managed to get a job and started feeling better. He even told Nasser that he wanted to invite him for dinner, just like Nasser had done for him before. Meanwhile, Nasser continued his work in the military sector, climbing the ranks until he was transferred to a specialized criminal investigation unit. There, he met Officer Saad, who became his supervisor and mentor. As Nasser began rebuilding both his professional and personal life, Khalid was trying to put himself back together, though the psychological scars from prison still lingered after. Becoming an officer in the Criminal Investigation Department, Nasser got to know an Officer Saad for his supervisor. One day, while smiling and talking about a call he had received from Khalid, Officer Saad asked him why he looked so happy. Nasser then recounted the brief story of Khalid, how he had suddenly disappeared, how it was later discovered that he had been wrongfully arrested alongside a man suspected to be one of the region's most notorious drug traffickers, simply because he owned the car that the dealer was riding in. Officer Saad asked about Suleiman Khalid's brother who had been with him that day. Nasser explained that Suleiman had been released because he had no connection to the case, but Saad looked surprised and said, "Are you telling me Suleiman just walked away from the case? You're saying he was with a drug dealer, and yet he was." Cleared from everything as easily as a hair slips out of dough, Nasser realized something strange was going on. Officer Saad asked him to send a copy of Khalid's ID for further inquiry. Once he had it, Saad accessed the system and contacted an old colleague who had handled the case. The colleague replied, "Yes, I arrested Khalid at the checkpoint. He was only with one other person. The third person, Suleiman, was actually a confidential informant working with the security forces." Nasser was deeply shocked. He had no idea that Suleiman had been working as an informant first, and that his presence with that man wasn't coincidental. It had been part of an intelligence operation. Officer Saad explained to Nasser, "A confidential informant is someone who works with the authorities, providing information about smugglers or criminals." Suleiman wasn't just a random passenger. He was part of the operation. And he already knew the other man was a drug trafficker. That's why he wasn't arrested. He continued working as a source of intelligence. Nasser was emotionally shattered. It turned out that Suleiman had used Khalid, exploited his trust, and dragged him into a major case without facing any consequences himself. And so, Nasser decided that he had to meet Khalid again in person, and he needed to hear the full truth from him. Why did he agree to go with Suleiman? And why didn't he tell him anything about his real role after graduating and becoming an officer in the Criminal Investigations Unit, and after uncovering new details about his friend Khalid's case? Through Officer Saad, Nasser decided to visit Khalid personally to learn the full truth. He requested a 5-day leave and returned to his hometown. Upon arrival, he went to pray Isha, night prayer, at a mosque near Khalid's house, where they prayed together. After the prayer, Khalid went home to change clothes while Nasser waited by the door. Nasser met Khalid's father, who welcomed him warmly and spoke kindly about the bond between the two friends, offering reassurance about his son's condition. Then Nasser and Khalid got into the car, planning to go to a rest house belonging to a mutual friend. But Nasser wanted to talk about the past, so he suggested they stop somewhere for tea. On the way, Nasser began bringing up memories of the past and asked Khalid about the details of the day he was arrested. Khalid showed some hesitation and said he didn't want to remember that day. It still hurt too much, but Nasser insisted and began asking indirect questions, especially about Suleiman, Khalid's brother, who had been in the car with him the moment he was arrested. Nasser asked, "How did you end up at a checkpoint in an area that wasn't known for having checkpoints before?" This question made Khalid alert, and he replied, "God curse your tongue. I swear you've made me doubt." Nasser understood from Khalid's reaction that he was starting to realize something, that there might be a reason for his own growing suspicions. At this point, Nasser became even more convinced that Suleiman was not just an ordinary passenger, but likely had a much bigger role than it seemed. Then Khalid began to share more details. After Nasser and Yasser left, Khalid and Suleiman drove to an area with farms, with the goal of meeting someone and transporting him. On their way back, they were surprised by a checkpoint, and in a place where none had existed before. The car was stopped, searched, and both were arrested. At the time, Khalid didn't understand why he was arrested, or why Suleiman was quickly released. But now, years later, doubts were creeping into Khalid's mind as well, though he had no idea until now that Suleiman had been an informant working with the security forces. After realizing that Suleiman, Khalid's brother, had been an informant for the authorities to Nasser decided to verify every detail related to Khalid's arrest. While sitting with Khalid in the car, he started asking him questions about what had happened that day. Finally, Khalid admitted that he also had begun to suspect something, especially after Nasser asked, "If a smuggler was in your car, would you expect only him to be arrested and not everyone else?" Khalid replied, "I don't know, Nasser, but now I'm starting to think that maybe Suleiman knew something and didn't tell me." Nasser asked Khalid for Suleiman's phone number to look into things further, then sent the number to Officer Saad, who worked in intelligence. After one day, Saad returned with shocking information. Suleiman had recently been arrested again. He was caught in possession of a large amount of dangerous narcotics. During interrogation, Suleiman admitted that he had worked with the police as an informant. But he had also been collaborating with drug dealers and had helped facilitate the arrest of that particular trafficker in exchange for a lighter sentence. The officer in charge of the case added, "Suleiman wasn't innocent as you thought. He was indirectly involved. He used Khalid to carry out our operations without Khalid ever knowing. It had become clear that Suleiman had manipulated Khalid, exploited his trust, and dragged him into a major case, while saving himself thanks to his role as an informant. Nasser returned to Khalid after confirming all the facts and said to him bluntly, "A man who doesn't keep his promise to God, how can he keep his promise to you?" It was Suleiman who threw you away, and it was him who left you rotting in prison for 3 years. Khalid began to understand the truth, and pain started to creep into him, not just from losing years of his life, but from the betrayal of his own brother, the person he had trusted more than anyone else, after confirming to Suleiman's true role. In Khalid's arrest, Nasser became even more certain that Suleiman was not just an innocent figure, he was an informant for the security forces who had exploited his brother's trust and used Khalid's car in drug transportation operations. The investigating officer continued. The drugs found on Suleiman were mixed with a banned substance that directly affects the mind. Suleiman had fed the police false information and managed to divert suspicion from himself while others were arrested. Even after being released, Suleiman remained involved in the drug trade, until he was finally arrested again while transporting a large shipment between regions. When Khalid learned that Suleiman had finally been arrested, he called Nasser and asked, "Nasser, did you have anything to do with this?" Nasser denied any involvement, but told Khalid the full truth about Suleiman's role, how he had been used in the operation, and how he had unknowingly served as a tool in Suleiman's game. Nasser returned to work and informed Officer Saad Baskip of everything that had happened. Saad told him that he had always felt uneasy about Suleiman and had previously requested increased surveillance on him. Saad said, "Wampum, praise be to God that he fell into his own trap, and praise be to God that you warned him before." Then a new phase began. The security forces decided to form on a large team of top officers under the umbrella of the anti-drug unit, led by Officer Saad. The team included around 25 officers of various ranks, and Saad was widely respected and admired by all. On the first meeting day of the team, Nasser and Saad Grace arrived with 3 colleagues. Nasser noticed the deep respect everyone held for Saad, not just as a leader, but as a dedicated and selfless servant of the country. After forming the anti-drug unit under Officer Saad, the area was divided into 2 zones. Nasser, Saad, and a new officer named Abdul Ali were assigned to monitor the Pantashurmar northern sector of a large neighborhood. The next day, Nasser began his patrol alone through the neighborhood to gather intelligence. The time was around 7 or 8 p.m. Nasser walked on foot inside the neighborhood to observe movement and carefully assess the situation. He passed through a small market with about 40-50 shops selling carpets and household goods, then continued, walking through the residential areas. Suddenly, while walking, he caught a strange smell, one that resembled narcotics mixed with chemical substances. At first he didn't pay much attention, but the scent was strong and distinctive. He turned back and noticed a car parked by the roadside. He discreetly tried to capture its license plate number. Using his phone camera, after getting the plate number, he sent it to the security team and informed them of the location. Then Nasser returned to his car to continue patrolling by vehicle and started planning how to follow up. At that moment, one of the officers called and said, "Good news. We stopped the person and found the substance you mentioned along with some banned pills." Nasser understood that this man was either a drug dealer or at least a user, and that the pills found on him were only legally available for specific medical cases. Their illegal use was strictly prohibited. Nasser headed directly to the team's command center to participate in the investigation. Eager to learn more about the suspect and where he had been caught. After the arrest of the suspect, who was found carrying narcotics and banned pills, Nasser Morris went to the police station to begin the interrogation. In the first session, the suspect clearly appeared to be under the influence of drugs, and his responses were cold and uncooperative. Nasser asked him about the source of the pills, but he refused to answer and said, "Write whatever you want. I don't care." Nasser realized he was still under the influence of a banned substance affecting his mental state. Nasser decided to temporarily halt the interrogation and ordered the suspect to be detained until he recovered from the drugs' effects. The next day, Nasser resumed the interrogation and noticed that the suspect had regained some awareness. He tried once again to convince him to cooperate, offering help if he revealed who had supplied him with the pills. But the suspect repeatedly refused and said, "I won't tell you. Write what you have." The case file was closed with this suspect, and he was transferred to prison. Officer Sardier said, "Don't worry. Since we've caught him, tomorrow we'll start arresting others." At the end of the shift, Saad ordered the team to hand the suspect over to prison, and all seized quantities were officially recorded. On his way home, Nasser decided to pray Isha, night prayer, at a local mosque. There, his attention was drawn to a suspicious man sitting inside the mosque. Making unusual hand movements, Nasser recognized the gestures as signs of drug use, and became certain when the man looked at him strangely and didn't respond to his greeting. Nasser kept watching the man. Knowing such behavior was rarely random, it usually pointed to drug use or trafficking. After completing the interrogation of the first suspect and on his way home, Nasser decided to pray at a mosque. There, his attention was drawn to a man named Saddam, who was sitting inside the mosque performing strange movements, clear signs of drug use. After finishing the prayer, Nasser noticed that Saddam Morris left the mosque and approached a group of young boys who were mocking him. Suddenly, one of them gave Saddam a stone and said, "Do you want me to give you pills?" Saddam took the stone, clenched it, and began chewing it like it was a pill, then threw it away afterward. Nasser watched the scene without intervening, becoming even more convinced that Saddam was a regular drug user, always looking for a source to supply him. Later, Saddam entered a nearby pharmacy, staying there for about 5 to 6 minutes before exiting, visibly nervous. Nasser kept observing him, but found nothing concrete indicating direct drug use or dealing, so he decided to return home. The next day, Nasser met with Officer Chris Saad and his friend Abdul Ali. Abdul Ali informed him that they had arrested another person who was carrying a large quantity of narcotics, enough for multiple users, meaning it wasn't for personal consumption. Saad asked Nasser about what he had seen the previous night, so Nasser told him about Saddam Superfasom, his strange behavior, and his visit to the pharmacy. Officer Saad decided to go with Nasser to the same area to see Saddam for themselves. The following night, the team went to the same neighborhood and arrived during Isha, prayer time, joining the congregation. As they were leaving the mosque, Saad approached Saddam in an indirect manner and noticed that Saddam was still under the influence of drugs. Saad asked Saddam, "Tell me where you buy it from, and I'll go buy it for you." Saddam replied, "Brothers, I buy them from the pharmacy right here. I just walk a little." Saddam tried to grab Saad's hand and lead him personally to where he bought the drugs, but Saad said to him, "Easy, easy, I'll get you what you want." After observing Saddam's suspicious behavior and hearing his admission that the source of the drugs was a local pharmacy in the neighborhood, Officers Sadas and Nasser decided to investigate further. The two went to the pharmacy dressed in civilian clothes. There, Zados entered the pharmacy while Nasser waited in the car. Saad bought some painkillers as a cover for his visit, but carefully observed the pharmacist. He noticed that the pharmacist's hands were extremely dry, with visible pills stuck to his fingers, signs commonly seen among those involved in handling chemical substances used in drug manufacturing. Saad confirmed to Nasser, "This man is not just a regular pharmacist, he either makes or sells banned substances." Saad began investigating the pharmacist's background and contacted international security agencies, Interpol, to check his record. It turned out that he had previously been caught in 6 drug-related cases. Though the incidents were old and no solid evidence had ever been found against him inside the country, Saad gave instructions. The team would start monitoring the pharmacy starting the next day. Nasser and Abdullahi would be stationed at the northern location and would monitor everyone entering and exiting the pharmacy. The next day, at around dark noon, Nasser and Abdullahi began surveillance near the pharmacy. They noticed that most of the visitors were teenage girls, arriving mostly via private drivers and staying only briefly inside the pharmacy. Nasser reported what he saw to Saad, who surprisingly seemed to expect it. He told Nasser, "Open the map app and search if there are any other pharmacies near this location." After monitoring the suspicious pharmacy where the pharmacist was suspected of selling narcotics, Nasser and Abdullahi noted that most visitors were teenage girls arriving by private drivers. Saad asked Nasser to check for nearby pharmacies, and they discovered there was another larger, better-equipped pharmacy just 200-300 meters away. The team started closely monitoring the suspicious pharmacy. The next day, they noticed a man in his early 20s entering the pharmacy. Saad ordered the vehicle he was riding in to be intercepted after he left. The man was followed, stopped, and found carrying a bag of medicine. Upon inspecting the bag, they discovered that banned substances were hidden inside a cough medicine container. The man was arrested, but he denied any involvement with drugs, insisting he was just a delivery driver, receiving orders from someone else. The man showed husky chat messages on his phone, proving he had received instructions from another person to pick up the medicine from the pharmacy and deliver it to a specific recipient. Nasser realized that this man was relatively innocent, just a middleman who didn't know what he was actually carrying. So he instructed him to continue the delivery without raising suspicion. And the team agreed to follow the person who would receive the illegal materials. The team followed the delivery man as he drove about 10 kilometers away from the pharmacy, ultimately leading them to Peist, the final recipient of the banned substances. After tracking the delivery man from the suspicious pharmacy, the team successfully followed him to the area where the recipient lived. Nasser and Saad noticed that the amount paid to the delivery man was much higher than the normal price of medication, which confirmed that it wasn't just regular medicine being transported, it was illegal substances hidden inside the packaging. The next day, Nasser and Abdullahi went to the university of the student who had placed the order. They watched him until he came out, then Harstein arrested and detained him for interrogation. During the search, banned substances were found in the car's glove compartment. The student immediately confessed, saying that he was in financial need, his parents were sick, and his only income came from selling these substances. Officer Saad understood that this student could provide more valuable information, so he began interrogating him inside the police station's investigation room. Officer Saad asked the student, "We've been watching you for a while. How did you coordinate with the pharmacist?" The student admitted that the pharmacist had a younger brother studying at the university. This brother was responsible for recruiting students to buy the substances from his older brother at the pharmacy. The process worked by transferring money to the younger brother's bank account at the university, after which he would send the name of the person coming to collect the order. To the pharmacist, the student added, "I have nothing to do with anything except picking up the substance after the deal is made." Saad ordered the student to be detained and asked him for the bank account number and mobile number of the pharmacist's brother at the university. To expand the investigation, at the end of the interrogation, Saad looked at Nasser and said, "Try to learn from this. Life is a lesson, and I'll be retiring soon." After arresting Biosnum, the student who had been receiving banned substances from the pharmacy, he confessed that the operation was carried out through his brother, who worked as a pharmacist at the university. He explained the process. A high sum of money was transferred to the brother's account inside the university. The brother would then send the name of the person collecting the order to the pharmacist. The person would come in, collect the substance under a false name, and pay the amount. Based on this information, Officer Hassad decided to expand the investigation and arranged to recruit a young informant from within the university to infiltrate the same system. The informant was briefed and sent a message to the pharmacist's brother. "I'm from the university. I want to pick up what you have." They arranged a meeting on campus where the informant handed over a numbered cash payment and requested the medicine using the same method. Then they tracked the pharmacist as he handed the package to the informant, and Waitraj arrested him on the spot, seizing the very same box containing the illegal substances. At the same time, Nasser went to a second meeting location with the pharmacist's brother, where he asked to receive the same marked cash payment, and they arrested him as well. The two brothers were brought to the police station for interrogation. At first, the pharmacist refused to give any information, but he broke down when he learned his brother had also been arrested. He admitted that he had instructed his brother to recruit students within the university and that he had used his profession as a pharmacist to hide narcotics inside medicine packaging. In a direct interrogation session between the two brothers in front of Officer Sadburi, each began cursing the other. Both accused their sibling of being responsible for dragging them into the crime. Officer Saad issued the following orders. The pharmacist was sentenced to more than 7 years in prison for using his workplace to distribute narcotics. His younger brother received 4 years for assisting in the operations inside the university. Thus, the case was closed, and a drug distribution network that had used an educational institution and a noble profession as a cover for its criminal activity was dismantled. After concluding the case involving the pharmacist involved in selling narcotics, alongside his brother, Officer Sader held a meeting with the anti-drug unit. During the meeting, investigations revealed that most of the suspects shared a single source for the banned substances, a location near Nasser's hometown. When he heard the area's name, Nasser became alert, because he knew it was the Markhofied same neighborhood he had lived in before moving away for his military job. Officer. Saad smiled and said, "It's time, Nasser. You should go back to your area and begin work there under the anti-drug unit." Nasser hesitated slightly. Due to the sensitivity of the situation, he feared facing people he personally knew. But he told himself, "I swore by God why, if I ever catch my own brother dealing drugs, I won't show mercy to anyone." Officer Saad gave final approval to temporarily transfer Nasser to that region as part of a security assignment. Nasser accepted the mission, informed his family that he would be coming home for a while, and told his friend, Khalid, and old friend Yasser, that he was starting his new role in the area. When Nasser arrived at his family's house, he was surprised to find that his room had been emptied. After his long absence, he bought some used furniture to set the room up again and settled in. The following week, he started his first day at the anti-drug center in his hometown. His goal was clear: to understand the nature of the work and the criminal networks operating in the area. For guidance, Nasser contacted his former department head and asked for detailed information about the region. The officer warned him, "This area is a bit dangerous, and people don't care much. Be careful." After transferring Nasser Shen to work in his hometown under the anti-drug unit, he began to understand the local dynamics. He reached out to the officer who had previously worked in the department and asked for information about residential neighborhoods and their risk levels. The officer explained, "The area experiences high levels of drug trafficking. Most of those arrested had obtained the substances from one specific neighborhood. Although the neighborhood itself isn't filled with criminals, it has become a hub for traffickers, where illegal materials are distributed indirectly." The officer provided Nasser with a list of the most dangerous areas, including coded details known only to law enforcement personnel, to avoid eavesdropping or leaks. On his first day at the new center, Nasser decided to start by monitoring the neighborhood described by his colleagues as redundant, and dangerous. He went out on patrol with one of the officers but noticed nothing unusual or suspicious. He returned again at night, still finding no evidence of criminal activity. He asked the accompanying officer, "If the residents aren't the ones selling, why is this neighborhood considered high risk?" "Yobore." The officer replied, "Most of the suspects we arrest use this neighborhood as a distribution point, but they're not residents of it." Nasser understood that there was a drug trafficker hiding inside the neighborhood, and that he needed to infiltrate carefully to expose him. So he decided to walk through the area as if he were an ordinary person, not in uniform, but wanted a trusted companion. He called Khalid and asked him to join. They agreed to meet, and Nasser waited about 20-25 minutes before Khalid arrived. Nasser explained the situation. "This neighborhood is known for drug distribution, and there's still a dealer on the loose. I want to uncover him from the inside." Together they began a reconnaissance tour through the neighborhood, Domak, starting a new phase of investigation and surveillance after beginning his surveillance of a neighborhood known for drug distribution, and confirming that a trafficker was still at large. Nasser decided to enter the area disguised as a regular citizen with the help of his friend, Khalid. At the same time, however, Nasser was also helping his mother find a used bed similar to the one he had bought for himself. He went to a used furniture market to look for such a bed, and there he noticed something strange. At one of the shops, a large truck was parked at the entrance of the market, and workers were unloading brand-new tables. even though stickers on them labeled them as used. Nasser asked one of the workers about the price and was told that the tables weren't for sale. They had been bought from a customer and then are refurbished. Nasser found the idea of refurbishing used items suspicious, so he asked if any shops in the market actually did that. The worker denied it and said, "No one here refurbishes furniture. We buy used and sell used." Doubt started creeping into Nasser's mind. He returned to the unloading site and noticed that a second truck unloading those tables was completely covered, making it impossible to see what was inside. He took note of the truck's license plate number. Rao called the security department and requested a background check. It turned out the truck was registered to the same suspicious area Nasser was investigating. Nasser requested immediate backup and ordered the preparation of our 2 undercover cars and an armed patrol unit, ready at any moment. He had a feeling that a major crime was unfolding right in front of him, that he might be on the verge of uncovering a network much bigger than he had imagined. After noticing suspicious behavior from a truck unloading tables in the used furniture market and confirming that the tables were actually brand new, despite what the sellers claimed, Nasser's suspicions grew stronger. He contacted his colleagues and ordered the deployment of 2 undercover vehicles and an armed patrol car to follow the truck. He began tracking the suspicious vehicle, carefully switching between undercover cars to avoid detection. After some time, the truck stopped in front of an old house in a long, open neighborhood. Nasser immediately informed the support team of the location and decided to wait and observed it before launching a raid. The next day, Nasser returned to the same neighborhood. From a distance, he watched the house and noticed strange movements. No young boy, at about 10 or 11 years old, was receiving cars, taking bags from them. After collecting cash payments, Nasser became certain that this house was a source of illegal drug distribution. But he wanted bars. Solid evidence before proceeding with a raid. He instructed the security teams to stop and search the very same car that had appeared earlier. During the search, banned substances were found inside. With this confirmation, the decision was clear: launch a raid on the old house. On the operation day, the team set up an ambush near the house. As soon as the young boy came out to deliver a bag to a customer, he was arrested along with the person who received it. The team entered the house, and Nasser was the first to step in, weapon drawn, ready for any resistance. Inside they discovered a hidden storage room inside the garage, a broken table, inside which were marked packets of narcotics. The raid ended successfully. All involved were arrested, and this operation marked Nasser's first major success in his hometown. After raiding an old house in the neighborhood, 6 individuals from the same family were arrested for involvement in drug trafficking. It turned out that the young boy, around 10 or 11 years old, had been helping deliver packages without knowing exactly what he was doing. The suspects were brought in one by one for interrogation, and the truth began to unfold. First, confession. The first suspect admitted that he was a drug user and had started dealing with a trafficker to obtain substances after he failed to pay his debts. The dealer threatened to kill him and his siblings if he didn't settle the debt. He was then forced to work for the trafficker as a condition of forgiveness and began using the family house as a storage point for distributing banned substances. Remaining statements. 5 other family members gave nearly identical accounts, confirming that they were coerced and terrified, forced to work under his threat of guns and death. Each said they only knew part of the operation, and none had ever seen the real trafficker's face. The most important testimony. It was time for a poigreur, young man of 18, Manke, to speak, the bravest among them. When he entered the interrogation room, his tone changed after learning that his brothers had already confessed. In a moment of emotional breakdown, he said, "I don't want to do this. It's my stepfather who forced us." He explained the situation. The new stepfather appeared in their lives after a long absence and began threatening them, saying he would harm their mother if they didn't cooperate. He didn't just scare them. He denied them even the most basic necessities. No car, no decent home, not even enough food. The boy said, "He's the one who made us work. I swear we had nothing to do with it. Everything comes from our stepfather." Nasser was deeply shocked by what he heard. He realized that this wasn't just a drug distribution network. It was a brutal exploitation of an entire family. He decided to continue the investigation, but now with a new focus. To track down the real stepfather, the mastermind behind everything. After arresting 6 members of the same family involved in selling drugs, they all confessed that they were coerced and forced to participate under threat of weapons. During the interrogation of one of the suspects, an 18-year-old named Abdul Malik, the full truth came out. It all began when their mother remarried a man named Saud. This man was a drug trafficker who began threatening the family and forcing them to work for him. Abdul Malik said, "If you don't work for me, I'll kill your mother." He continued, "The stepfather deprived them of everything, even decent living." Not content with that, he forced the older brothers to work, then demanded that the younger ones be brought in to help with deliveries and transactions. Abdul Malik stated clearly, "I swear we had nothing to do with it. Everything comes from our stepfather." Nasser realized that this case was far beyond a mere drug ring. It was a case of human exploitation involving an entire family. He asked for Abdul Malik's help and arranged to work secretly with him to stop the stepfather, the true orchestrator of the crime. They agreed that Abdul Malik would remain in custody without the rest of the family knowing, and the investigation would continue in secret. The next day, Nasser prepared to begin executing the plan. But on his way to the station, he received a surprise call from an old officer who had helped him earlier in the case involving Suleiman and Khalid. The officer said, "I heard you're our new officer? Praise God. If you need any support, I'm here." Nasser understood that he wasn't alone. There was support within the department that he could count on. He arrived at the new station and officially took over his duties. Among a long list of names, he noticed that his old friend Officer Saad was still working within the security team, though off-site. Not permanently stationed at the center, Nasser decided to bring Saad into the investigation. He was a professional and dedicated officer, and likely to play a major role in uncovering the remaining details of the case. After opening the traffic gate, Nasser headed to the station and requested the summoning of Abdul Malik to continue the investigation regarding the workplace of the stepfather, the nature of his operations, the areas where he distributed drugs. A new phase of the investigation had begun, with the main target being Saud, the stepfather who had turned this family's life into hell. After Abdul Malik revealed new details about his stepfather, the man who had forced the entire family into drug trafficking under threat of violence, Nasser began investigating his background. Abdul Malik said, The stepfather's name was Saud bin Fulan, a wealthy man who owned companies, yet exploited the family and dragged them into the narcotics trade. He didn't know the exact production site of the banned substances, but Saud lived in a specific area. Nasser asked Abdul Malik to Marquine secretly leave detention, to accompany the team to gather evidence on Saud's activities, to go to the family house, to pick up some clothes. On the way, Nasser called Officer Farab, who had previously helped him in the case involving Khalid and Suleiman, and informed him of the situation. The two agreed to go with Abdul Malik to the area where Saudi lived to continue the investigation. Upon arriving at the location, they tracked a cement transportation company owned by Saud Tonskit Sarau. The company appeared normal. It had showed them large cement mixers that transported materials between factories and construction sites. The team observed the company for 10 days but noticed nothing suspicious. But on the 10th day, Nasser and Faris noticed that 3 cement mixers left the factory, but their drums weren't rotating as they should. This raised suspicion in Nasser's mind because normally mixer drums rotate to prevent the cement from hardening inside. Faris said, "If the drum isn't rotating, then what's inside isn't cement. There's something going on here." The team decided to follow one of the cement mixers to find out its real destination. The mixer left the factory and headed toward a remote road, traveling about 150–160 kilometers. Finally entering Aikor construction site under development, Nasser and Faras realized this was not just a regular cement shipment, it might be a code for transporting illegal substances. Poskik, using the cement transport company as a cover. After tracking the cement transport company, owned by Saud Pouy, Abdul Malik's stepfather, Nasser and Faris noticed that some mixers left the factory without rotating, an abnormality in cement transport. They decided to follow the 3 of the mixers, which traveled a distance of about 150–160 kilometers before entering a government construction site that was closed off. Nasser and Faris observed that the mixers remained parked for 3 hours. There was no normal construction activity around them. The project they were supposedly working on had been abandoned for 5 years and was never completed. Suspicion grew stronger, so they decided to get out of the car and approach the site on foot, while Abdul Malik stayed in the vehicle. As backup, as they watched from a distance, they saw workers beginning to cut open the body of the mixer using large cutting tools, a person removing unknown material from inside the mixer. At that moment, both understood these were not cement shipments. They were narcotics hidden inside the mixers. The team quickly returned to the car and reported to the security department that they were about to raid the site. The next day, Nasser and Faras planned a carefully coordinated raids. A large team of officers and armed personnel was assembled. Inspection vehicles were positioned along major roads to prevent anyone from escaping. 2 days later, Mordai mixers arrived in the same way and were tracked back to the same site. As the operation began, the team surrounded the site discreetly. As soon as the workers started unloading narcotics from the mixers, the signal was given to raid. Nasser and his team stormed the location, ordering the suspects to stand still and drop their weapons. The officers arrested several traffickers, about 6 people in total, including 2 of local nationality and 4 of foreign nationalities. But during the operation, Nasser noticed one man trying to escape, and suddenly his feet froze. He whispered to himself, "I've seen him before. I know this man. But who is he?" After the successful raid on the mixer unloading site, several suspects were arrested, including one. Man Nasser only recognized after the interrogation began. It turned out to be Suleiman, the very same Suleiman who had been Khalid's cousin, and who was later revealed to have been an informant for the security forces. Yet he had betrayed Khalid's trust, dragged him into a drug case he had no part in, and caused Khalid to spend 3 years in prison unjustly. But things had since evolved. After being arrested the first time, Suleiman cooperated with the police in exchange for a lighter sentence. But he lied and falsely claimed Khalid was involved, even though the drugs found on him were of the same type being distributed by his uncle's husband, Saud. Through this false cooperation, Suleiman escaped serious punishment, while Khalid paid the price. Nasser realized this was a golden opportunity for justice. Suleiman was now in their custody, and this could be used to reinvestigate Khalid's case. As soon as Khalid entered the interrogation center, he was brought face to face with Suleiman. Khalid said, "Go, Suleiman, by God, I never failed you. You betrayed me, and today your truth will come out." Nasser began interrogating Suleiman, using all the new evidence to prove that he was directly involved. He had exploited Khalid in the past. He helped his uncle's husband, Saud, distribute narcotics under the guise of a cement transport company. Finally, Nasser promised Khalid that he would reopen the case, prove his innocence, and hold Suleiman accountable for what he had done. After Suleiman was arrested and interrogated, his direct involvement in the drug trafficking case was confirmed. Nasser realized that justice had finally arrived, and this was the right time to revisit Khalid's case, in which he had been sent to prison based solely on Suleiman's false accusations. Nasser contacted a lawyer to prove Khalid's innocence, presenting new evidence showing that Suleiman had exploited Khalid's trust, that he had lied to both Khalid and the police, and that he himself was directly involved in the real crime, while Khalid had been completely innocent. Court. Suleiman was sentenced to 7 years in prison for the drug trafficking. His uncle's husband, Pios Saud, was convicted of leading the entire network and received a life sentence. As for Khalid, his innocence was proven after great effort, and he was awarded financial compensation for the 3 years he had spent in prison. Without fault, thus the story came to a close. Justice was served. The truth came to light. Khalid reclaimed his life, and Nasser Bey fulfilled his mission successfully, not just as an officer, but as a loyal friend who never forgot his true brother. The end. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey through powerful storytelling. We hope you enjoyed the scenes we shared and that they left you with deep thoughts and strong emotions. If you love these kinds of stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exclusive content. Until next time, with warm regards from Stories by Johar.